Springfield's Talk 1041. My name is Dick Reed, and welcome to the show on this fine Monday morning. Looks like we're going to have a couple of wet days. We'll get into that first alert forecast coming up here in just a bit. J.D. Vance doing quite a bit of sit-down interviews, something that Kamala Harris still, 3 weeks after Joe Biden had his election overthrown by the Democrat Party, which he's talked on some, claiming that it had nothing to do with his cognitive health issues, but simply the Democrats' desire to overturn the election because they felt that he wasn't going to be able to win. Nancy Pelosi also floating this idea maybe Biden wasn't the one who actually wrote that letter in which he explained his resignation. There's a whole lot going on over the last 48 hours, but still no pressers from the Kamala Harris campaign, no sit-down interviews. The media essentially running her campaign. They're campaigning for her. This is what we're watching play out. And while some grumble to some degree about the fact that Kamala isn't sitting down, that Walz is not sitting down and actually answering questions, you've got to some degree, acknowledge why should she when you have the media running your campaign for you, when you have your media out there acting as the campaign. You have a media that is much more interested in J.D. Vance years ago, before he was ever in office, using the term cat lady, than Kamala Harris using the talking points of Hamas, which she did once again over the weekend, as well as decide to announce that she, if elected president, will eliminate taxes on tipping. Wasn't that an interesting idea? Something that Trump did back in June. Largely ignored, of course. In fact, a few weeks ago, one of the unions that is supposed to represent those in the hospitality industry that survive largely on tips came out and endorsed Kamala Harris. And when commenting on the fact that, but Trump is the one who wants to eliminate tips, well, that's just irrelevant. That doesn't really matter. That's just some campaign ploy to try to win over people in the service industry. Of course, this proposal from Kamala, which was stolen from Trump, is something that I'm sure that they will not only embrace, but utilize as part of the reason they're endorsing her. So here she's full acknowledgement. I mean, this is full acknowledgement that they have some pretty big concerns in that arena. Now, let me tell you, because I know that if you listen to shows and you follow what's going on, you see the polls, and now they're talking, there's some of these swing state polls, Kamala's pulling ahead. I don't know whether that will keep, whether that will fade, but my appreciation of the polls is something that is not, in terms of the validity potentially of them, and those poll numbers relative to Election Day is not something that I'm paying attention to until a week or two after the convention. Again, you've got the media that is campaigning for Kamala Harris, which allows her and Walz not to answer any questions, not to do any press conferences. It's already being noted that the few speeches that she's given, they're exactly the same. I mean, exactly the same, which suggests that she is programmed. She is completely programmed because of the inability to speak on her own. You can guarantee to the bank that these are not speeches that she's writing, because we know when she talks and the thoughts that she is translating into speech come from her own mind, it's a jumbled mess in which she is a mockery. She's become a mockery. And when she's giving these speeches, they are word for word exact, and they are largely coherent. And so this tells us that here you've got this programmed candidate that still has been deemed incapable of answering questions or having an exchange with people who are on her side. It's not as if they have to worry about a media trying to trip her up. These are people who are desperately trying to get her elected. She is incapable of even going off script the slightest. With the convention that is going to be coming up, again, this is going to be a huge rally. It is going to be appealing to a lot of people. They are going to have a tremendous amount of production value. But after that, a week or two after that, and let's be honest, the debate. We saw what a tremendous difference the debate made. Kamala has agreed to one. This is ABC News, the network that currently is defending itself in a lawsuit that has been filed by Trump because George Stephanopoulos falsely claimed Trump was convicted of rape, something that never happened. And, in fact, it was last week, ABC News, of course, they tried to have it dismissed, and a judge found, no, there is not grounds for dismissal. There is plenty of evidence here that he's got a legit case. But, again, what you see demonstrated is Trump, who, with the first debate, let the Biden people set any and all of the rules they wanted. In the debate, the one of the three that he wants, that Kamala has agreed to and Trump's fine with, is with the one network that has falsely on air stated that he was convicted of rape, and so there's a current ongoing lawsuit. It's the difference between the two campaigns. It is the difference between a confident leader and somebody that is a creation, an empty creation, to the point that now she's stealing Trump economic plans. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF. Latest news update. Sorry. By default, I know.
Wow.
It's Monday. I didn't even have weather in front of me. I don't know where I would have gone with it. I would have been like, oh.
We do have quite a bit of rain
There
in
we
the
go.
forecast. Yeah, the first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see a 50% chance of showers, mainly before 1 p.m., and then mostly cloudy with a high near 83. Tonight, mostly cloudy with a low around 69. For Tuesday, we have a 70% chance of rain throughout the day with a high near 83. And on Wednesday, the heat will be back. We'll see mostly sunny skies with a high near 91.
All right, coming up, Kamala Harris stealing Trump's no tax on tips promise. This is an announcement that she made over the weekend at a rally. I remember, as many of you may have, or may also remember, when Melania Trump gave a speech during the 2016 election. And as an immigrant, she talked about lessons from her parents and so forth, and her inspiration and how they guided her, which is a common theme for many successful people who really care about their parents, particularly they go through massive life changes. You're born in a country, and then you end up moving to another country, the United States of America. And so, like a lot of us, she drew inspiration from her parents. And because Michelle Obama had once talked about her parents, the media went overboard in declaring that Melania was a plagiarist. It was days and days and days about Melania, who wasn't running for anything, who was relaying again a growing up and relationship with family and parents that many people have, but it was an opportunity to really rail. Now, of course, what at the time was so perfect was the fact that Joe Biden is just a known plagiarist and has been caught specifically plagiarizing other people's work and speeches. But, it's the media. And so they just trashed it. I mean, it went on forever. Do we think we're going to get the same sort of attention with Kamala Harris plagiarizing Trump's no taxes on tips policy? Of course not. Their approach, I suspect their approach will be one to just ignore this. Ignore the policy itself as long as they possibly can. And I suspect, frankly, that the Kamala campaign does not plan on making it a focal point. In fact, they may never mention it again. But this was mentioned once. That way, anytime anyone ever points to Trump's policy as being reflective of his desire to help the working class person, they can say, oh, well, Kamala has that too. That's the only reason it's there. It's just going to sit there quietly in the corner to be used in order to rebuff any challenges to her economic policies in the context of hardworking American people and Trump's no tax on tips policy, that's when they can pull it out, just to try to diffuse it. 447 KSGF, Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line traffic update. I'm Nick Reed. Local for less Ozark, half price $50 tickets to PBR Thunder Days for only $25. That is coming up Friday, August 30th. It's specifically for Friday night. Tickets in section DD, rows 12 through 15. You can purchase those half-price tickets now. You don't have to wait until Friday to do that. If you want to get those half-price tickets, again, $25 for $50 value, you can go to ksgf.com, local for less Ozarks, and go ahead and get that all wrapped up now. So Kamala Harris, and Trump's responded to this, accusing Harris of stealing one of his promises he made on the campaign trail, and that was to eliminate taxes on tipping. Now, I don't believe that this is actually anything that they plan on doing. I believe that this is there, that it may never even be mentioned again, unless Trump's policies of tax cuts for the working person come up. They can say, oh, well, our economic policies are the same when it comes to the working persons, and then say, but then he wants to do it on the back of, the middle class by giving billionaires and try to shift the conversation there. But what Trump needs to do, instead of just, and many of you have noticed, Sarah, we were talking off air, Sarah noted this, we've had, people text in, call in, and everybody is having the same internal response, and that is, why wait? You're in the White House. Why is it that we need to wait until it's President Kamala Harris? Clearly, it's Joe Biden. I think it's safe to say he wants Kamala to win, right? I mean, what are they going to say? No, he doesn't want her to win? If that is solid economic policy, if that is policy that Kamala believes is good for the economy, good for America, and good for working class people, why aren't they putting it forth now? This is what Trump needs to ask. Do it. Challenge her to do it now. Make her answer the question. Trump proposed this back in June. If I'm Trump, I would know, listen, I'm not in the White House. This is part of my economic policy if I get elected to be back in the White House. Kamala Harris is already there. And then call her out. Utilize that in order to demonstrate that this is a campaign ploy. Because if she really meant it, it would be done. But of course, everything about this campaign, everything about Kamala Harris is manufactured and fake. Some of the audio, and she's getting roasted for this because of, in addition to, and I believe the comments about the tipping are in this bit of audio, where she talks about how she's going to bring prices down. Oh, well, where have you been the last 3.5 years? Now, what is important to remember as you hear these people cheering, which is insane. It would be one thing if Kamala were saying, listen, I'm going to bring prices down. I know that they've gone up under our economic policies, and that what we didn't work. We thought it would. We had all these economic experts telling us, and there were unforeseen circumstances, however, that instead resulted in historic inflation occurring. I recognize that now, and so I'm going to take the opposite approach in order to reverse inflation. I think without being somebody with expertise in economics, we can all agree that if you take a certain action and it causes, there is a reaction. If you want the opposite reaction, then you take the opposite action. In order to fix the economic problems that have been created by the Biden-Harris campaign, one needs to take the opposite approach. But this is not what Kamala Harris is saying. She continues to claim Bidenomics works. They give because they've recognized how poorly it's worked for them, telling you how good you actually have it. So now they're at least acknowledging, yeah, we know prices are expensive and everything. But of course, it's not their fault. It's a conspiracy amongst every business in existence, Large businesses, small businesses, medium-sized businesses, they've all gotten together, along with landlords, mind you, and decided, yes, at a time when people have even less buying power than they did 4, 5, 6 years ago, we're going to jack up prices on everything. It's where these meetings take place, I don't know. Perhaps it's the dark web, maybe the deep state, maybe it's somewhere in Europe. Let me tell you, they're very good at keeping tight-lipped on this because I know a lot of small business owners, and none of them have shared with me any inside information about this conspiracy between businesses. So as usual, when it comes to people in government, specifically on the left, when they create a problem, they blame you. When they create economic problems that force businesses to have to raise their prices, they blame the businesses. They blame the victim. And why not? Because when you have brainless, ignorant supporters who applaud you while you do it, why not?
Because look, while our economy is doing well by many measures, prices for everyday things like groceries are still too high. You know it and I know it. When I was Attorney General, I went after price fixing schemes. And when I am president, I will continue that work to bring down prices. I will take on big corporations that engage in illegal price gouging. I will take on corporate landlords that unfairly raise rents on working families.
All right, so again, let's go back to the previous question regarding her promise, if she's elected president, to eliminate taxes on tips, something she stole from Trump. Why not? Why isn't Biden doing this? Why aren't you doing this now? If this is an illegal conspiracy theory amongst business owners across this country and the world, why are they letting it happen? These are common sense questions. These are questions one does not need to have any sort of just extraordinary grasp on economics to ask. She acts as if they haven't been in charge over all of this. That they've had nothing. There's nothing that we could do. If Biden and Harris have been unable to do these things that she claims need to be done, why on earth are we to believe that Harris can do it? You listen to these idiots cheer this stuff, and I'm sorry, but they're idiots. They're, at the very least, they're ignorant. This is how this party in particular benefits from a public education system that teaches people what to think, not how to think. Because simply knowing how to think instinctually brings up the question, then why haven't you been doing this now? Or why aren't you doing this now? Why haven't you been doing it over the past 3.5 years? She's claiming this vast conspiracy of business owners illegally price fixing things. Who? Which ones? Can we get some specifics here? Instead of just demonizing every job creator in this country as being part of a mass conspiracy to screw over the consumer, how about you get a little specific on this? Of course, if you don't sit down for any interviews, you don't have to be specific. And that's assuming that she would even be asked these questions because she's dealing with a media that is working to get her elected. Quick break. We've got traffic coming up as well. Pyramid Roofing Company, talk and text line 447 KSGF. Weather 2 minutes after we get a traffic update. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we have a 40% chance of showers, mainly before 1 p.m., and then mostly cloudy with a high near 83. Tonight, a slight chance for rain, otherwise mostly cloudy with a low around 69. For your Tuesday, we have a 70% chance of rain throughout the day with a high near 83. And on Wednesday, the heat will be back in the Ozarks. We will see mostly sunny skies with a high near 91.
In addition to the absurd notion that the Kamala Harris campaign is now saying that they will do what Trump said back in June would be part of his economic policy, and that is eliminate tipping on taxes on tipping. Obvious question, why haven't you done that? You and Biden, listen, Biden, anytime he's talked about Kamala, about how she's right there with him. Kamala says that she meets with him, I think it was once or twice a week, that they go over these policies. So you can't start claiming now you don't have influence. Why now? After Kamala cast the tie-breaking vote on the ironically titled Inflation Reduction Act, one of the aspects of it highlighted on the 87,000 IRS hires, the funding for that, you may recall this. And it wasn't long after that, the IRS, under the Biden-Harris administration, noted that they were going to start targeting people's income that comes by way of tips. There were a number of pieces on it at the time, usually in so-called conservative media, because, of course, mainstream media had no interest in covering the Biden-Harris administration's targeting of people in the service industry. We had talked about it at the time. It was the Service Industry Tip Compliance Agreement Program. And it was a program that was being put into place in which business owners, it would just, it was voluntary, of course. It was going to be voluntary, in which instead of what oftentimes happens now, and that is the reporting of tipping by way of the server, him or herself, and there have been a lot of changes, obviously. Back when I was serving, the vast majority of tips came from cash. And then I remember at the end of the night, and we were told at the time, just put this percentage, whatever your total ticket sales were, and they'd just tell you, put a percentage of that, instead of having to go through and count it all, and it was just faster, it was easier, and that's the way that it was done. But increasingly, you have credit cards and so forth. Well, what this was an attempt to do by the Biden-Harris administration is, at that point of sale, automatically take the taxes out of the paycheck based off of the tips, instead of having the servers do it themselves. And so this was seen as, in terms of talking about people getting away with not paying their fair share of taxes, the Biden administration was focusing on the service industry, waiters and waitresses, and people who rely on tips as part of their income. And while many people will say, hey, listen, if they're supposed to pay taxes on it, they're supposed to pay taxes on it. But coming from an administration who claims constantly that their number one priority is making sure that the ultra wealthy in this country pay their fair share, the fact that they were pushing policy that was targeting the middle to lower income American was quite different than the presentation that they were giving. So for an administration that specifically was implementing plans to target people in the service industry to make sure that they were paying taxes on all of their tips, to now, months after Trump comes out with, how about no tips on, or taxes on tips whatsoever, for Kamala Harris to come out with that same plan, isn't just a plagiarizing issue, but it is in defiance of the way that they've treated people in the service industry during this 3.5 years of their administration. Is there an issue that Kamala Harris has not been on the opposite side of than what she claims she's on today? She used to claim that she was, she said flat out, ban fracking. Oh, no, she doesn't support ban fracking anymore. Eliminating private health insurance. No, she doesn't support that any longer. Gun buyback programs, quote, buyback programs. Oh, no, she doesn't support that any longer. No, not at all. Taxpayers paying for free health care for illegal immigrants, something that she once supported. No, she doesn't support that any longer. Going after people in the service industry who might not report all of the tips that they receive to the IRS. Well, now, oh, no, not only that, we now support not having any taxes on those tips whatsoever. Is there any issue in which she hasn't done a complete 180-degree turn now that she wants to be president of the United States? For all of these folks out there that talk about, in the media was singing the song after the Biden debate disaster, well, sure, Biden might be senile, but Trump's a liar. Sure, you can point to Trump, some would call it exaggerations, whether it's about a crowd size or claiming that, every legal scholar said that Roe v. Wade, going back to the states, that, every legal scholar said that it was a wise move. Well, of course, not every legal scholar. But when you look at somebody like Kamala Harris, what is she going to even do if she's elected president? What is she going to do? What will her policy be on fracking? What will her policy be on health care for illegal immigrants? What will her policy be for the border? What will her policy be when it comes to tips for people in the service industry. She's taken the complete opposite stance at any given time. What is she going to do if she does get elected? I mean, that's as straight up a legit question as you can get. How can you claim what you believe her now? What is the position of the media and the Democrats? Well, she was just lying before, but she's not lying now. Oh, okay. That's how that works? Speaking of crowd sizes, and perhaps you've seen this as well. There is a photo that has been circulating that is supposedly showing Kamala and I think that pervert Waltz coming out of Air Force Two, which I think, are there not questions about them campaigning off of that? I mean, this seems like something that they should not be doing. People who are running for office are not allowed to utilize taxpayer services in order to do it. There's supposed to be a very distinct wall. But that aside, so the picture shows them, and then there is a huge crowd, and they're in focus. The crowd is out of focus because, of course, they are to be, closer to the photographer, and it's been noted by numerous people, and I'll be interested to see if this is legit, that the reflection in the plane shows no crowd whatsoever. You can see the bottom half of the plane, of course, is blue, and you can see what would be the reflection of the surroundings of the plane. And so when you're looking at the picture, you see what appears to be a sea of people, yet when you look at where they would be seen in the reflection on the plane, there's no one there. And I suspect that it's a photoshopped or AI or something that, once again, is perfectly symbolic of Kamala Harris and completely fake. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. A1 Custom Car Care, all of your car care needs, tires as well, yes. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? We've become so accustomed to a separate place to purchase your tires. Yes, when you have your vehicle in, you get your mechanic, you're like, will you rotate them or doing that sort of thing. That is something they could do. But if you wanted to buy tires, you had to go elsewhere. Well, I mean, of all the things that a vehicle has to have in order to function, tires are one of them. And A1 Custom Car Care now fully service your tire needs, selling them as well as doing any sort of installation and maintenance on them too. So that is something that you only have to have one trip for now. You don't have to go over here, A1 Custom Car Care, for your oil change and maybe transmission fluid check, and then make a separate appointment at a tire shop. You can do it all at A1 Custom Car Care. I'd ask the question, is there any issue that Kamala hasn't changed her position on? She still supports abortion. This is true. I suspect, however, that like most Democrats, the vagueness of the support of abortion is something that would be of issue here. In other words, on one hand claiming, well, we don't support abortion all the way up until birth, but then when it really comes down to it, they do. This is a claim that many Democrat supporters make, and they get very angry when you point out that the Democrat policy is supporting, even partial birth abortion, which the baby is being delivered alive, and then while the head is still inside the mother, killing the child at that point. And when you note this, a lot of Democrats, they get very, very angry. And I think some get angry because they don't like being exposed. Others get angry because they genuinely believe that their party does not support that. Of course, Tim Walz has signed legislation allowing that as governor of Minnesota. Abortion whenever. You want it for fun as a hobby? Yeah. Knock yourself out. If you ever find yourself in a conversation with someone who claims that the Democrat Party does not support abortion up until birth, there's one simple question that you can ask them, and that is, at what point do they support banning it then? If they do not support abortion until birth, what is the cutoff? Well, they have no answer because there is no cutoff. And that one question alone, I think, for many Democrats who allow themselves to believe, for rationalization purposes, that the Democrat Party isn't that party of death up until the point of birth for children, that is a revelation to them. And it's a revelation to them because, again, so many of them have been taught not how to think but what to think. And when you ask that question, it forces them to think. If they're genuine in their belief, it forces them to think, well, gosh, I would encourage those of you who believe the Democrat Party when they say, or the media when they claim that the Democrat Party doesn't support abortion up until birth, call your local Democrat lawmaker. Call Crystal Quade's office or a campaign. Ask her when she believes the cutoff should be. 4 months? 6 months? 6 weeks? When is it? See, that's a question that the media should be asking if they were actual media. No one has said anything about Kamala Harris also promising to raise minimum wage. Although the audience cheered enthusiastically, everyone seems to have forgotten what happened to the cities where minimum wage was raised. Yes, of course, California, prime example. This is what is, emotionally, it does make me feel pity for some of these people. Because a lot of the individuals who show up at these rallies really, truly believe that somebody like Kamala Harris cares for them and they really genuinely trust them and hope that their policies are going to lead to a greater quality of life. But you and I know the truth. We know what happens when minimum wage, as a policy of the government, is is artificially raised, and businesses have to meet that number. They have to, it's a combination of things. You raise prices until you can raise them no longer, and then you have to start letting people go and sometimes close up altogether. And because of the inflationary policies of the Democrat Party, particularly out in California, which you got a double whammy, you got a state run by Democrats, and then you have the government run on a federal level by Democrats up until Republicans barely got a majority in the House, and even then you see Speaker Johnson working with Democrats. But at some point you can't raise your prices anymore because people quit buying your product because they can't afford it. So then you have to start firing people. Who loses their jobs? The very people that stand there and applaud as Kamala Harris says that she will, if president, implement the very same policy that has caused countless hardworking Americans to lose their jobs, that have caused countless small business owners to lose their livelihoods. And they applaud their own death. Speaking in terms of their economic situation, the job that they have, they cheer the person who stands there saying, I am going to push policies that will cause many of you to lose your jobs and many small business owners to lose their business. Because let's be honest, it isn't the massive chains that end up closing up shop whenever these Democrat policies go into place. It's the small businesses. And this, again, comes back, and largely the media is responsible for this because they do not report these facts. We have talked about this time and time again in these states, or if you have a city like Portland that is going to jack up artificially the minimum wage, and we say, here's what's going to happen. And then usually within a few months, those local outlets or the state outlets, like in California, and we started seeing them, they will have all these stories about these businesses, and they had to close doors because of the minimum. We knew this was going to happen. It happens every time. And there's almost inevitably interviews that are done with employees who lost their jobs, who are saying, if I had known that it was going to be like this, I wouldn't have supported it. And they don't know it because the media campaigns for those who want these policies. And so the media covers up the reality of what happens when these policies are put into place. And so then you have these poor, innocent people who genuinely believe that their lives are going to be improved by these policies that Kamala knows. This is for the Democrats, they know the reality of this. These are not policy proposals that are put in place to make the average person's life better. These are not policies put into place to make small business owners' lives better. It is to get votes from people who don't understand the realities of what is coming down the road. Because getting the votes is all that matters to lead to what is the ultimate goal, and that is power. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. There is yet another very bizarre Secret Service story that involves accusations that the Secret Service broke into a a hair salon, a small business owned by a local gal. This is in, I think, Pennsylvania. I believe this is where Pittsfield covered up cameras in order to do it, denied that they had anything to do it until there was proof that, in fact, they did do it. And then, of course, the apologies come. Now, the whole thing is bizarre for a number of different reasons, but much of what, to me, is indicative of what has become a continual dumpster fire that is the Secret Service. It is the, denial. Well, then, yes, no, we did. I mean, it's just as if one hand doesn't know what the other's doing. This is an administration that virtually every department, when you get insight into what's going on, is total chaos. And unfortunately, yet again, another story that has made it to the public that what once upon a time the Secret Service was one of the very few agencies left in existence that most people had a significant amount of respect for, and they have completely destroyed that. And it's as if we're not quite finished yet. What else can we do? So I'll share some of that story coming up. News in 60 seconds. On Friday, Anthony Carricker joined us out at Scramblers for our Friday Road Show. And he was talking about how with some of these interest rates coming down a bit, there are a lot of companies that are sending you information indicating 3% in these really low numbers. And what he explained is that, well, that is under very specific conditions. For example, perhaps a massive down payment in order to buy that down a bit. That isn't your traditional sort of loan, but they use that in order to get your attention. And then what the average person's actually going to be able to do is nowhere within that ballpark of getting those interest rates to that point. So it's just something to be aware of. I recommend that whomever it is that you speak with first, if it isn't iwantagreathomeloan.com, you definitely go and check out what they have as an offering for you as well. And that way, heck, check as many as you'd like. It's never hurtful to have as many options as possible, but make sure one of them is iwantagreathomeloan.com. And that's refinancing as well as just your straight up home loan needs. There is this story out of Massachusetts regarding the Secret Service that occurred within the last couple of weeks that it doesn't help the already struggling Secret Service in terms of its reputation. And there's a story from the Berkshire Eagle. This is a local newspaper out of Pittsfield, Massachusetts. And they wrote on August 9th, if the Secret Service had simply asked, Alicia Powers would have been happy to let its officers use her hair salon across a parking lot from the back of the Colonial Theater as a comfort station the day of Vice President Kamala Harris's visit to Pittsfield. Quote, I'm the kind of person that would have set up coffee and donuts for them had they asked me for permission, said Powers, the owner of 413 Salon at 54 Wendell Avenue. But they didn't ask Powers or her landlord. Instead, they taped over a security camera on the back porch, broke into the salon, helped themselves to the bathroom, ate the mints on the counter, and left without tidying up the bathroom or locking the back door on the way out. Powers said the Secret Service's Boston office has apologized on behalf of the agency. She also said Pittsfield police officers, up to and including Chief Thomas Dawley, have been helpful and supportive of her efforts to get accountability. The person she spoke with at the Secret Service confirmed that the woman who taped over the Ring camera at about 8:12 a.m. on July 27th was with their agency. She also said the agency offered to pay to have the salon cleaned and pay for any damages and also pay for the business's private alarm bill, quote, because it was going off for so long. Powers said, I was happy with his apology. It's a little bit of accountability. Again, I wasn't looking to do anything, but she was particularly alarmed about the agents leaving the space so vulnerable after they left. Quote, we're a small business. We've always worked incredibly hard to build this business. This is our livelihood. It could have been taken from all of my 12 employees in a flash. A voicemail message left Friday at the Secret Service's Boston office seeking comment was not returned by press time Friday, but Secret Service spokesperson Melissa McKenzie told iBerkshires, which first reported the incident, that the agency had reached out, quote, we hold these relationships in the highest regard, and our personnel would not enter or instruct our partners to enter a business without the owner's permission, McKenzie said, according to the report. While the apology helped, Powers still feels violated, disrespected, and a little angry. Quote, when they cleaned up and they left the tape on my camera and cleared out, and they left the tape on my camera and left my back door completely unlocked, what could have happened in that hour and a half or 2 hours that you guys left the building unlocked? A city native, Powers worked at salons across the county before opening 413 Salon more than 5 years ago in what was formerly a suite of law offices. The Secret Service first approached Powers on that Tuesday and conducted a security sweep of the building. In the meantime, Powers headed to Cape Cod for a previously scheduled vacation. Now, this story is leaving out some information that I was able to glean from some other articles on this. The reason that they did a sweep was because it was a building that was close by to an event in which Kamala Harris was going to be speaking. So they were just doing a security sweep and had requested that her salon be shut down during that period of time. That way there weren't people coming and going. And they just were attempting to make the area as secure as possible. I guess because it was Kamala Harris. If this were Trump, probably a much different story. They'd allow people to be on the roof with guns and so forth. But this is, the advance team for the Kamala Harris campaign. So they're treating it a bit differently. And because the request by the Secret Service to be shut down for that day, she left. She went to Cape Cod. At 8:12 a.m. on that day, Powers' phone alerted her that there was activity on the salon's back porch. Powers said of the footage, quote, she walked, talking about the person and you could tell this gal looks like a Secret Service agent. She walked around the porch, walked around the side of the building, then popped back up on the porch, grabbed the chair, hopped up and taped over the camera. It blacked out the camera completely. Now, when you watch the video, and we'll get this up on the must-read headlines, what appears to be occurring here is the Secret Service agent comes up and sees the cameras, sort of checking things out. Frankly, it looks like the sort of behavior that you would see from somebody trying to break into a place. And then the Secret Service agent leaves and comes back, and that's when she gets the chair to reach the camera to tape over it. So presumably what occurred here is she went to get tape, whether it was out of the vehicle or elsewhere, and then came back in order to tape over the camera. Now, we've got to get an update on the latest news here, weather as well, as we can expect the next couple of days to be somewhat soggy, and then continue on with this latest real bizarre story of the Secret Service breaking into this salon and leaving the place in somewhat disarray, stealing stuff off the owner's desk, and then denying that they had anything to do with it before eventually admitting, yes, it was, it was us after all, which, why deny something that clearly they knew that there were security cameras that filmed the agent taping over the camera? Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we have a 40% chance of showers, mainly before 1 p.m., and then mostly cloudy with a high near 83. Tonight we do have a slight chance for rain, otherwise mostly cloudy with a low around 69. For Tuesday, 70% chance of rain throughout the day with a high near 83. And on Wednesday, the heat will be back. We are going to see mostly sunny skies with a high near 91.
There is this somewhat odd, or to me, odd describes the behavior of the Secret Service regarding the break-in of a salon at an event near where Kamala Harris was going to be giving a speech, having an event. This is in Massachusetts. And, of course, there is clearly a lot of attention being paid, and almost daily there's new information, new communications, new whistleblowers about the disastrous display during the Trump assassination attempt. And increasingly, not to talk about it now, but it becomes increasingly difficult to not wonder if it wasn't deliberate that security was as shoddy as it was. As you have local police, and they're just saying, and even caught on camera in the moment, I told the Secret Service guys about, that it is easier for me to believe that it was deliberately left unsecure as opposed to just incompetence, because the number of incompetent decisions that would have to be made, the odds of it seem almost insurmountable. But that aside, there was an event that was coming up. Evidently, it was a Kamala Harris visit to Pittsfield. This is Massachusetts. And there's a woman, Alicia Powers, owns a local salon there, 12 employees, and the Secret Service had come to do a sweep because the building, it was just right there next to the Colonial Theater, which is where the Kamala Harris event was. And so apparently, because it's not Donald Trump, they wanted to make sure that everything was so secured up to the point of saying, hey, we they did a sweep, a bomb sweep. This was days before the event, and saying, listen, we need you to shut down because we don't want people coming in and out of your place during this event that's open to the public. And so she complied, and she gives everybody the day off. She goes to Cape Cod, and she that morning begins getting these alerts from her security saying that, there's somebody on your front porch, and she's watching as somebody that looks like a female Secret Service agent, scoping things out, comes back, and then tapes over the security camera. And the alarm continues to go off for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. She eventually gets back. The place is somewhat messy. Stuff was stolen off her desk. They deny that they have anything to do with it until, of course, that they admit that they, yes, had something to do with it. Now, Powers had said, I'm going to pick up in this local story. This is the Berkshire Eagle in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, noting that the secret, she had said all they had to do was ask, and I would have been more than happy to, let them utilize the facility, but they didn't. And they didn't ask the landlord either. She doesn't own the building. She has a landlord. The landlord's like, yeah, nobody contacted me. She noted at 8:12 she saw the agent walking around the porch, grab a chair, hopped up, taped the camera. Powers drove home from Cape Cod, arriving at 1 p.m., checked her phone upon arrival. It told her that people started entering the building around 12:42 p.m., quote, or how does she know, quote, because I have cameras everywhere, she said. For 2 hours, people came in and left the salon. There were people walking in and out for 2 hours. Quote, from the communications I've heard from the EMS workers, somebody dressed in all black was telling them to come in and use the bathroom all afternoon. Just going around, oh, that place over there, just go ahead. Make yourself at home. She heard a similar story from the Berkshire County Sheriff's deputies when she drove to her business at 4 p.m. after the crowd that gathered for a glimpse of Harris had gone home. Powers reached out to the Pittsfield police, let them know what happened. They confirmed city officials had not used the salon's bathroom, then put her in touch with Secret Service reps in New York. Powers said that she was told by the New York Secret Service office, quote, this is what she said, he was telling me that it couldn't have been them because that's not what they do. They ask for permission. And he kind of ended the conversation with telling me, do you think we need to deal with this right now with what we have going on? And my response was, sir, I'm not trying to be rude, but I don't deserve to deal with this now either. Powers said she doesn't seek normally media attention, but said this isn't okay. I'm a very private person. I usually don't put myself out there like this. I just wanted some kind of accountability. So the Secret Service at that time not only claimed that they would not have done it because that's not the sort of thing that they do, but then turned it around on her and essentially argued that with everything that they're dealing with right now, that she's causing them a hassle. Then there was a Fox News story that was reporting on this incident. And at that time, the United States Secret Service spokeswoman, Melissa McKenzie, said the U.S. Secret Service works closely with our partners in the business community to carry out our protective and investigative missions. She said the Secret Service had been in contact with Powers since the July 27th incident, saying that we hold these relationships in the highest regard and our personnel would not enter or instruct our partners to enter a business without the owner's permission. Now, this led some people to speculate that the Secret Service was denying that it was them that did this. However, the Secret Service has since said, yes, it was us. We'll make good on it. We'll hire somebody to come clean up the mess that was created. Something, she didn't say what it was, aside from the candy that they took. There was something small off her desk that was stolen. But these sorts of stories, be it the disaster of the Trump assassination attempt or this sort of attitude, it just seems as if these are a bunch of like young, and I don't think they are, but like what you would think of if you took a bunch of irresponsible people who don't care about anything, threw them all together and put them in charge of something. This is the sort of outcome that you would get. The part of taping over the camera, I suspect that was to cover up the fact that they broke in. Because she noted that she has cameras inside the place, and I suspect that you can see them. If not, then that's, I suppose, a failure of the Secret Service to not recognize those cameras if their attempt was to not let their presence be known to begin with, and of course all the evidence they left behind. Covering up a camera so you could not see them break in suggests that perhaps what their plan was, if they got caught, was to claim that they were given permission. But the problem with that is everyone under the sun that was involved said that no permission was given. And another point, and this goes to what I suspect should be the overall mission of the Secret Service, and that is in this case to make sure that no one was able to utilize that facility in order to cause any harm to Kamala Harris as vice president and a presidential candidate. Anytime there is any sort of crime that does occur, what is one of the first things that you find that the investigators do? They go around seeing if there are any privately owned security cameras that they may be able to grab footage from in order to see if they have any sort of visual of the suspect, whether it is capturing a crime or not, but to at least get an idea of where it was that they were at what time, to identify individuals that might be persons of suspect. And here you cover up that camera? I'm telling you, this agency, we are lucky as a country that we have not been hit by terrorists due to the border and the policies of this administration, and that that there haven't been more attempts on the lives or the life of Donald Trump or RFK Jr. or any of these folks involved, because it certainly doesn't seem as if currently the Secret Service is a culture that acts in a manner that even takes that job seriously. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF. A couple questions regarding this latest Secret Service story in which in Massachusetts the Secret Service broke into a small business, a salon, and evidently, according to people, were just inviting people in to use it, use the restroom, hang out. This while a Kamala event was taking place nearby, and the Secret Service at first they denied it. Then they copped to it. Yeah, we did it. And it involved putting tape over the camera that would have apparently filmed or caught the Secret Service agent breaking into the place to begin with. And someone asked or said, I wonder if they removed the tape after they were done. Not only did they not remove the tape, but they didn't lock the place back up after they left. This was another aspect of it that the business owner, and she had referenced in a local newspaper there, that what could have happened after they left. And we could have, me and the 12 employees lost our livelihood if somebody could have come in and wiped us out or done all sorts of damage, vandalism if they wanted to, steal equipment within the salon. So they left the camera covered up and left the door unlocked, which means, of course, potentially that if somebody had, broken in, or they wouldn't have had to have broken in, but it would be less evidence for them to be able to utilize or to potentially track down the person because that one camera in particular was taped up. Traffic update, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we have a 40% chance of showers, mainly before 1 p.m., and then mostly cloudy with a high near 83. Tonight we do have a slight chance for rain, otherwise mostly cloudy with a low around 69. For your Tuesday, a 70% chance of rain throughout the day with a high near 83. And on Wednesday, it's going to get hot again. We'll see mostly sunny skies with a high near 91.
One of the questions that has come in on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line regarding, well, there have been a couple of notations here. We talk about this latest Secret Service story and their taping over cameras in order to obscure their breaking into a salon, which they would leave in somewhat disarray, apparently stealing something off the owner's desk and then emptying out the candy bowls because apparently they're 8-year-olds. One saying, think the camera would be recording the audio too. They should have hit it with a brick if they were competent criminals. Even crackheads would know that. And it did. It does pick up audio. And she noted that she had cameras inside as well, so she could see the day was filled with people that she had no idea who they were. They were just coming in and out. Now, part of, I think, what makes it so egregious, again, is that they denied it at first and essentially accused her of causing them trouble. According to her statement to the newspaper, that the New York field office said, we don't do that sort of thing. We never would. We have enough going on right now without you, hassling us over this. They would later apologize and admit that it was them, the Secret Service, that had done this. A number of you had mentioned the Third Amendment. Third Amendment doesn't get a lot of attention, and this was an amendment in the Constitution regarding specifically soldiers and forbidding soldiers, armed forces from being quartered in people's private homes. There hasn't been a lot. I don't know that, frankly, that there ever has been a major Supreme Court decision surrounding the Third Amendment. But the question is, could that also be interpreted to apply to any sort of government agent that has the power to arrest and kill you, which the Secret Service obviously does? And I don't know the answer to that. But listen, it's the Obama administration, or the Biden administration, and it's regarding the Kamala Harris campaign. So clearly, there's not going to be any desire to hold these folks accountable. Now, if this were Donald Trump, president of the United States, that had Secret Service do this sort of thing or happen on his watch, we would hear all about it. We would hear about the violations of civil liberties. We'd hear about how Donald Trump is turning us into this police state in which he uses his private thugs to go break into people's private businesses and have no respect for the American people. This would become a major story. But odds are this is the first you're even hearing about it. There was a local newspaper story in Pittsfield, Massachusetts on this, and then Fox News picked it up. And I'm sure there are some others, probably Washington Examiner and a few other places, but this certainly isn't going to get any sort of major attention. And aside from the fact that it should, just because it's the Biden administration doesn't mean that it should get covered up. But given what we saw with the Secret Service and the Trump assassination attempt, this is not in a vacuum. Republicans have for a very long time been attempting to figure out what is going on with the Secret Service. And this goes back to the Obama era. And what I find interesting about the lack of care that Democrats have had regarding the Secret Service, though during some of the testimony with the former Secret Service gal, head of the Secret Service, there were a number of Democrats that did call on her to resign and that they were quite hard on her. But prior to that, during the Obama years, there were numerous instances that occurred that indicated that the Secret Service perhaps was not acting in a manner that is conducive with making sure the life of the President of the United States and others that they are protecting is being handled as well as it possibly can. Yet it seemed like Republicans were, even though it was a Democrat president, Republicans were the ones during the Obama years that seemed to care about this the most. Congressman Jason Chaffetz, he was one that I believe he chaired a committee in which he was really trying to get to the bottom of what is going on with the Secret Service, to the point that they illegally leaked information about his application to the Secret Service in order to embarrass him. The director of the Secret Service at the time also lied to investigators about his involvement in it and had to admit that he was lying about it because of emails that popped up. He had claimed that he knew nothing of it, he knew nothing about it, but then emails would be discovered that showed that he did know about it, and he was part of the operation, and it was all to discredit him as he and his committee were attempting to figure out what the heck is going on with the Secret Service. It amazes me that it wasn't a bigger deal. when some of you may not even remember this, there was some random guy that jumped the fence of the White House when Obama was president, made it all the way across the lawn, got inside the White House with a knife, was running around the White House, made it into the residential component of the White House, and got caught only because a Secret Service agent who was off duty and was leaving work turned a corner, then they bumped into each other. That's the only reason this guy was caught. And it was treated as almost this water-cool story of how weird is that? And this was, an incident in which a lot of Republicans expressed a great deal of concern and noted, we need to figure out what's going on. But here the Democrat, and Obama was the guy who was president at the time, and you got a guy that jumped the fence, made it all the way across the White House lawn, and was running through the White House with a knife looking for the Obamas to kill. The conversations that are occurring now and the recognition by the country that there are serious problems within the Secret Service should have happened back then. But Republicans were blocked. And Republicans were trashed. And it wasn't because they didn't care about the safety of the Obamas. But it was a combination of one, that, you're talking about the Secret Service under the Obama administration, and anything that indicated incompetence on behalf of the Obama administration or any of the different departments under the Obama administration would, of course, be downplayed because they don't want to make Obama look bad. But secondly, this is something that the left tends to approach situations like they're not that big of a deal unless they can make something out of it politically. And this was some random crazy guy. It wasn't some supporter of Republicans that was inspired by whomever would have been the devil of the moment in the Republican Party during that period of time. And so there was just no real political benefit for Democrats to get out of it by highlighting it. So they just kind of ignore it, no big deal, and then demonize anyone who tried to look into it. But that was such a just insane thing that occurred, that some guy who seemingly didn't even really have any sort of well laid out plan, he just scaled the fence with a knife and made it into the White House. It's just insane to me that happened, and that the conversations and the focus we're having about the Secret Service today didn't begin back then. What occurred with the assassination attempt of Trump was not the first hint that was put on full display that there have been some serious problems with this particular division of the government. Though I should note that all of the scandals that have occurred, whether it is the arresting of Secret Service agents in South America for refusing to pay prostitutes, or Secret Service agents showing up drunk as they ran through a crime scene due to a bomb threat outside the White House during the Obama administration, or, again, the guy who scaled the fence and made his way all the way into the White House, that during the Trump years, these sort of chaotic things were not occurring, at least on the level that they did during the Obama years and the Biden years. I don't know if that's just coincidence, if Trump just got lucky, or if it was just an attitude, a different culture that led to a greater approach of seriousness by the Secret Service during that particular administration. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed.
Yeah.
Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. With rain in the forecast over the next couple of days, if you are worried about your roof or maybe your gutters, now is the time to call Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, when it comes to your roof, the Pyramid team, they just get it. They're homeowners, so they understand that your home is one of the largest investments that you'll make, so they want to help you try to protect it the best you can. So whenever you call Josh, he'll come out, he'll do a thorough roof inspection for you. They're going to check everything from your vents, your gutters, and they also do an attic inspection as well. And then they also take tons of photos and videos so you can see what they see. And then they come up with the best solution for you and your home. Great people, easy to work with. I couldn't be happier with the work that the Pyramid team did out at my home. So if it is time to schedule that free roof inspection, or maybe you just have questions, go ahead and give the Pyramid Roofing Company a call today. You can find all of that contact information for the Pyramid team under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
The great motivating factor for what we've seen over the past several years, people who have tried to assassinate political figures, has been their fear that what Democrats are claiming about Republicans is true. The Bernie Sanders campaign volunteer that went to that softball practice that day with a list of Republican lawmakers and an attempt to kill as many as possible, it was because he believed, according to his own words, his own writings, that Republicans were going to cause the death of millions of Americans because they were going to destroy Obamacare. They were going to destroy the wonderful world of socialized medicine. And they were the talking points of the Democrat Party. That's what he believed. And so he believed he was saving lives. He believed that Republicans, if they were still in charge, that of Congress, that people would lose their lives. So the noble and virtuous thing to do was to try to kill enough so that Democrats controlled Congress. Now, whenever this was noted at the time, Democrats said, oh, no, this isn't about Republican or Democrat. Oh, let's not politicize this. Today, we're all members of Congress, which indicate they knew. The individual who set out to assassinate as many conservative judges on the Supreme Court as possible, starting with Kavanaugh. He believed what it was the Democrats were saying about Roe v. Wade. He listened when Chuck Schumer stood on the steps of the courthouse and told specifically Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, you will pay if you touch Roe v. Wade. You will not know what hit you. We know that he believed these things. We know that he believed he was doing something virtuous because he posted about it on Reddit. And he posted that it wasn't just Kavanaugh, that his goal was to kill as many constitutionally leaning judges as possible so that the left controlled the court, thereby not overturning Roe v. Wade. Of course, at the time, we also know that Attorney General Merrick Garland told law enforcement to let individuals violate the law by protesting outside those homes. A combination of these things made it easy for that would-be assassin to make it to Kavanaugh's house. Thank God he called his sister beforehand to tell her what it was he was planning on doing, because she called 911 and let them know. Kamala Harris, while running with Biden for the presidency, referring to ICE agents as the Klan, stirring up rhetoric about concentration camps, and subsequent to that, numerous instances in which there were firebombs, Molotov cocktails, and other attacks on ICE offices across the country. Then you have these Democrats out there talking about Donald Trump, a danger to democracy, how dangerous our country could come to an end if he's elected president. On the flip side, also, you have Biden out there claiming if he doesn't win, we're still screwed because he will refuse to peacefully go away. So no matter what happens, if you listen to Joe Biden, The existence of Donald Trump is a danger. You'd think after one assassination attempt, these people would have enough dignity to maybe just dial it down a bit. Here's Biden talking to CBS Robert Costa Sunday morning.
If he wins this election, watch what happens. It's a danger. He's a genuine danger to American security.
Outside of hiring directly someone to assassinate Trump, what more can they do in order to try and inspire? It isn't as if we can't figure out what happens with these left-wing lunatics when they believe this stuff that Biden says, that the Democrats claim about Republicans, about Trump. We know what happens. We know that they take action. And when they do, and the investigations are done, we learn that it's because they believe them. This is very consistent. And you can go down the listing of incidents. There was there was a conservative organization in which a would-be assassin went and bought a bunch of Chick-fil-A, then headed over in order to assassinate as many people as possible from the conservative organization, because he found their name on the Southern Poverty Law Center's list of hate people, and he believed what they said about this organization, so he was going to do the world some good. Many of these trans shooters, specifically the one in Nashville, I mean, they've kind of figured out we need to start covering up the motivation of these people, because consistently they are individuals who believe what the Democrats are telling them and what the media is telling them about conservatives, about Christians, about Trump, about MAGA, about Republicans. All the while, we're told that it's the Trump supporters who are the dangerous ones. And for this guy to continue to go out there, knowing what we know about the reaction that this rhetoric gets out of left-wing lunatics, to continue to amp it up, to continue to send the message that, and this is what's important to understand, what Biden is saying is that it's Trump's existence that is a danger, because if he wins, democracy as we know it is over, and if he loses, then he's not going to go away and he will be a danger to this country. So in Joe Biden's world, his message is Donald Trump alive is a danger to us all. His existence, whether he wins or loses, no matter what happens, as long as Donald Trump exists, our nation is in dire straits. If your goal is to inspire yet another individual to try and assassinate a high-profile conservative, Republican, constitutionalist, or specifically Donald Trump, I'm not sure what more one could do than what Donald Trump or than what Joe Biden is doing right now. And the media is more than happy to act as the megaphone. And if one does become inspired, yet again, by this rhetoric and is successful in taking out Trump, or even not successful, we'll hear about how Donald Trump, he really should have just toned down his rhetoric a bit, and none of this would have happened. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. regarding Biden once again claiming that Donald Trump is a threat to our very existence and the message that sends to would-be assassins. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. What Biden is saying is don't miss next time. That certainly is a reasonable interpretation. Coming up, Kamala Harris campaign claims Tim Walz misspoke when he lied about his service. Wilder RV. Wilder RV, for all things RV, maintenance is a big one. Maybe you, because I talk a lot about, if you've not ever been in the RV world, it's a great addition to your lifestyle, just being able to get away. If away is just 10, 20 miles away to a nice campground somewhere, down to the lake, or up or over to the lake, whichever lake you want to go to, that it is tremendous and very, very affordable. $165 a month for a family accommodating RV. That's one night at a hotel stay. But, you should be taking care of it, routine maintenance, whether it's annually or otherwise, and they provide all of those services as well. People drive from all over to make it to Clinton, Missouri, Wilder RV, in order to have their routine maintenance done there with them because of the high quality of service and reliability that they get with that. Maybe you have an RV and it's been a while. You don't even use it that often. It's been a couple of years or so. Before you do take it out, Wilder RV make them your go-to place for all of those maintenance needs. Just about an hour north of Springfield, Clinton, Missouri, on Highway 13. Great drive up there, and they can be your go-to place for all things RV, be it maintenance or getting that first-time recreational vehicle. And you can find them, of course, under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. A spokesman for the Kamala Harris presidential campaign told the Washington Post Friday that running mate Minnesota Governor Tim Walz misspoke when he said in a video posted by the campaign that he had carried weapons in war. Misspoke is code for they lied. He lied. And they got caught, and there's no way they can continue to justify and rationalize it. Misspoke, see? If you're a Democrat, you're allowed to do that. If you're a Republican, it's called a lie. If you're a Republican, it is about your credibility. If you are a Republican, how can the American people trust you to run the country if they can't trust you to be honest about something like your very own background? If you're a Republican, you don't have a single interview without a majority of it being about your lies and trying to pin you down on how it is people should be expected to trust you when you tell such falsehoods that are clearly identifiable. But if you are a Democrat specifically on a ticket that the media is attempting to get elected to the White House, you're allowed to misspeak. One of the problems that the Harris-Walz campaign is having here is the fact that this isn't going away. And the reason it's not going away is because virtually every day some new audio pops up or a quote from Walz or somebody introducing Walz or a commencement speech that he has given or some sort of event in which he is lying about his service. Either lying about what he saw or his rank. In other words, his entire career has involved an autobiography that is fake. And the media has desperately tried to cover for him. They have attempted to downplay J.D. Vance's service because, sure, he was in Iraq during the war, but he was a guy that was just like an information officer, press guy, whatever. He wasn't one of them that was really, he wasn't really even serving. Trying to downplay it. And the J.D. Vance defense has been a good one, and that is, this isn't about the service. This is about lying about the service. What segment of the population this is going to have an impact on, we don't know. The swing state polls showing Kamala Harris up over Trump. As I've noted earlier, I'm not putting stock into the polls until after the first debate. Would it be great if Trump were holding the numbers that he had whenever he was running against Biden? Of course, that would be great for the country. Because and knowing a lot of small business owners and people that want to buy homes, their first time homes, I think 4 more years of doubling down on this stuff, suicide. Yet there are millions of people that are willing to do it just because of hate in their heart. And those people, frankly, they don't care. They could find out that Tim Walz had absolutely no military experience whatsoever, and instead spent his time murdering children, and they would still downplay it. Going to have a look at the weather here in a moment. Congressman Burleson will join us as well. Now the latest news update.
The first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we have a 40% chance of showers, mainly before 1 p.m., and then mostly cloudy skies with a high near 83. Tonight, a slight chance for rain, otherwise mostly cloudy with a low around 69. For Tuesday, we have a 70% chance of rain throughout the day with a high near 83. And on Wednesday, mostly sunny skies with a high near 91.
Half off deals, local for less Ozarks this week. You don't have to wait till Friday. It is available now. Tickets to PBR Thunder Days, only $25. That is for the Friday, August 30th showing or event, and section DD row 12 through 15. That is where these tickets are in that area. And for $25, you can get $50 tickets. Again, that is now at local for less Ozarks at KSGF.com. Congressman Burleson joins us this morning. Last time we spoke with you, it was the day before the primaries. Any thoughts on how things turned out?
The governor's race was surprising to me. I did not expect Ashcroft to come in third. So that was a big surprise. I think it was a surprise to many people, especially from Southwest Missouri, because I think that we kind of we're in the area that where the Ashcrofts come from, and so I think we probably saw more activity than maybe in other parts of the state. But that was a surprise to me. I was glad to see David Wassinger win the lieutenant governor race. That was someone that I came out and endorsed, and glad to see him come across the finish line, even though it was really close. And then Bob Onder winning in the St. Louis, like St. Charles region, mid-Missouri, the congressional district there. That was a huge win for me because I backed Bob Onder. That was someone that I served with in the Missouri Senate, and going to be really excited that he's going to join me in U.S. Congress.
Excellent. Well, let's shift gears here as we talk with Congressman Burleson. We're going into 20-some days with the Harris-Walz campaign not doing any pressers, not doing any interviews, and you can understand why when you have the media campaigning for you. Why bother? It's funny to hear some of the same media sort of complain a little bit about the fact that they won't sit down and have conversations. But again, when you're campaigning for them, and it seems to be working, and we expect the newness here to be a component. I'm not putting much stock into the polls until after the first debate. I think that could make a difference. We don't know whether it will or not. But so far, changing your stance on every issue, major issue that you've ever taken to some degree, and not having to actually campaign, but instead have a media do it for you, seems to be working to some degree, or it certainly isn't hurting them.
Yeah, this is a wild campaign. We'll never see anything like this. This is, yeah, and you're right. The media is playing a huge role in this. They're trying to whitewash her background and history as a progressive socialist, really, and someone who is, against the police. Kamala is one of the poster children for defund the police. So the fact that they're trying to rewrite her history now that she's a bold and strong prosecutor, it's just that we are in Orwellian fiction at this point, where they're just double speak, creating lying directly to us. So I hope. I mean, the thing about it is the people that are in the media, that in the press, you've got to think that at some point they have a conscience, and they think I have a responsibility to start asking questions or get an interview. But yeah, she's going to try to go as long as she can, in the basement of the campaign, if you will. It's because I think that she can only do more damage to her efforts.
She was the deciding vote for the ironically titled Inflation Reduction Act, and part of that was the funding of 87,000 IRS agents, and the messaging at the time from the Democrats was that those are individuals, they will not be going after middle or lower income people. It's all about getting the billionaires. Yet around the same time, they revealed this plan to start targeting waiters and waitresses and their tips, and those who are getting away with not paying their fair share in the service industry. Trump, of course, back in June announced his plan to eliminate taxes on tipping. And lo and behold, this last weekend, Kamala Harris said that's part of her plan as well. Isn't that an amazing thing?
Yeah, it is. I wonder who will the real Kamala Harris please
Right.
step forward, right? I don't understand. I think that it's mostly so you and I live in a world where we believe what we we believe in the principles.
Mm.
We actually have principles, and then we want to live by them. If you don't really care, then and you're operating as a transactional politician, then you can abandon a principle. You can abandon a thought or a position without any kind of stress or worry. And that's, sadly, I think that's the candidacy, and that's where a lot of the Democratic Party members are, is that they are transactional, they're populists, they do what is popular instead of doing what is logical and what is right. And so it doesn't, while it seems crazy to us, it's not so crazy to them because all they care about is what's popular.
Right. What'll get them across the finish line. And as we talked about this earlier, a point that came up is, and hopefully the Trump campaign will make this. At this point, the Trump response has been, well, she stole this idea from me. But I think it needs to be, well, why aren't you doing it now? You're in the White House. I mean, clearly you've had the ability to do this all of this time. Why are you just now talking about it? And why are you saying that you'll only do it if you get elected? You won't do it now. Along with the fact that she also is claiming that she's going to bring prices down. These are all things that would have probably made it a lot easier for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to get reelected if they had done all of these things to begin with.
Yeah, and why is she not closing the border now? So to your point, she is basically, if she's espousing these things that she's going to be able to do when she's president, why, she has some level of authority today, and yet she's not doing anything about it. So I think it's the correct point to be made. And I also think that we need to be sticking to the policies,
right,
and not the person.
Right.
So she, I think that we're going to fall. I think it's a trap to talk about all the other things, like, whether it's her weird laugh,
mm-hmm.
or her awkward sentences, or most of the time it seems like her sentences, the way she talks, come from those posters, those inspiration posters,
right,
that you normally see in businesses. But I really want to focus on her policies and how bad her policies are, and her ability to lead. She's not a leader. She doesn't have leadership qualities. Donald Trump, even if you don't like him, you have to admit he's got leadership qualities. He's able to. I mean, no one can command a room like Donald Trump.
Congressman Burleson with us. Before we let you go this morning, any other area of conversation, anything that we need to be aware of, or just thoughts that you have?
I think that in Missouri, let's go back to the election. I think that Missouri had a good outcome and I think that conservatives won the day, because if you look at these races, it's remarkable. I would say that those who won the races on the statewide level, they were not, while they may have won, there's the ones who were not the conservative choices. They only won by a split majority, right? Like not a real majority. And then in a lot of the races, the conservative candidate won. And I think that I'm pleased with the outcome of Tuesday's election. I was really humbled personally by my own personal outcome. We won by, I think, almost 83%. And that's not been done in a long, long time. And it tells me that the voters, so my work efforts, I feel like if you really do a really good job, then you don't have to campaign as hard, and the voters will affirm you. And that vote told me that the voters want me back, and I'm humbled by that vote. That was unbelievable. So I want to say thank you to everyone who voted for me. My goal is to make you proud that you voted for me.
Congressman Burleson, as always, it is a pleasure, and hope you enjoy the rest of your week, sir.
Thank you, Nick. You too.
Springfield Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company talking text line. What of your messages? I love Eric talking about Congressman Burleson, but we didn't win with Kehoe. Now, this is reference to Congressman Burleson's overall assessment that it was a good reflection of conservative values, these elections. And he did note at the beginning of the conversation that he wasn't happy with that particular outcome, and he didn't get into the breakdown of it, but I would note that it is good news in terms of the signal, which is that a majority of people did vote against Kehoe. And when you put together those who voted for conservative candidates, it was more than Kehoe got. Now, the downside of that is, once again, we have a system that works that way. We do not have runoff elections in primaries in the state of Missouri. So if you have one big government establishment candidate, 2 or 3 conservative candidates, the conservative votes get split up, whereas the establishment candidate gets all the establishment votes, and you can have a majority of voters vote against you who are conservative, and you still win, and that is what happened. So if you're looking for the voting patterns of Republican voters, it indicates that a majority of Republican voters do vote conservative. But which some would see as good news. But if you are looking at how we function in terms of choosing these individuals, that, I believe, and I've long argued, is the bad news, because it once again shows the benefit that system has to establishment candidates. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed.
Fields Talk 104.1, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we have a 40% chance of showers hitting the Ozarks mainly before 1 p.m., and then mostly cloudy with a high near 83. Tonight we also have a slight chance for rain, otherwise mostly cloudy with a low around 69. For your Tuesday, a 70% chance of rain throughout the day with a high near 83. And on Wednesday, mostly sunny skies with a high near 91.
Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. I wanted to share with you a review. I don't know if I've shared this one. And in fact, I think I just lost it now. I know. Well, what happened was I was trying to log into my stupid email over here, and then it wouldn't let me, so it gave me an authenticate.
Do you want me to give you a review?
Yeah. Let's do that.
Well, we're almost at like our 3-year mark of when we purchased our home, and we went through a process of like a 2-year time span of looking for our home that we're in now. And we didn't have a long list of items that we wanted. It was just kind of what everybody was looking for. We wanted to be north of Springfield. We wanted some acreage and just, like a little farmhouse. And it just seemed like that is what every single person was looking for. And we just looked and we looked and we looked. And at one point we got to the point with Emily where we're like, okay, well, maybe we should look at this one or maybe we should look at that one. And Emily she kept reminding us, hey, that is not what you're looking for, or that is out of your price range, or, you're not going to be happy if that is what you end up purchasing. So she did a really great job with us, just kind of reeling us in, and she kept reminding us, hey, we're going to find it and you're going to be so happy. And she's right. We found it. And once again, she is so right. We are happy with the home that we purchased, and she made that process just so simple for us. So I couldn't be happier with her. So there you have it.
And that's why I recommend Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty.
She's awesome.
She is incredibly awesome. Let's play, and yeah, you can find her, Nick's Endorsements, KSGF.com. I recommend also following her on social media. It's a great way to reach out to her if you have any sort of questions. And she makes herself so available for that sort of thing. She's not only interested in you if you are going to, right out of the gate, agree to utilize her services to help you sell or buy a home. She is there as a resource as well. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. J.D. Vance doing what neither Kamala or Tim is doing. Oh, by the way, the Tampon Tim name that has been given to Tim Walz. Clearly, the media is worried, and his supporters are worried that it may have an impact by highlighting his weird perspective on things, particularly when it comes to kids, because they are beginning to pretend as if Republicans gave him that name because they're against girls getting free tampons, when the reason that he's been called Tampon Tim is because he had tampons put in boys' bathrooms. That's the reason why. Over the weekend, the lieutenant governor of Minnesota and others in the media have talked about how it's just such a bizarre attack from Republicans because, and this is the dad in him, the dad of a daughter, just recognizing the importance and significance of, and they notice they say people. They don't say girls. They say people needing to have tampons, and for Republicans to attack him for being, it just shows how out of touch they are. No, their response shows that they know they're out of touch. And that's why they are trying to reframe what the discussion is about, because they know they're weird. They know that that is a nutty position that is outside the mainstream. Now, they may, it's relatively speaking, they may think that we're the weird ones because we believe in biology and science and only girls can have periods, boys can't. But they recognize that there are more of us than there are of them. So that's why they have to try and redefine this. Incidentally, one of the arguments that was made is that it makes sense to give out free tampons to everyone because, toilet paper in public restrooms are free and it's there. Well, yes, that's also because it's not convenient for every person who uses a public restroom to carry around rolls of toilet paper with them. Tampons are something that are, you can carry them around. They fit easily in purses. They fit easily in a back pocket. And though it may not be the most convenient thing in the world, and it's not even an argument against having them available in public restrooms, but the comparison that it's absolutely no different than expecting people to carry around toilet paper with them everywhere. That yet again shows how out of touch and nutty these people are on the left. This is J.D. Vance. Got a couple bits of audio, and it shows the complete difference between the Trump-Vance campaign and the Harris-Walz campaign, where neither Harris or Walz will even bother to sit down with a media that is trying to help get them elected. And you can hear some of that in this exchange with J.D. Vance and John Karl of ABC regarding the border.
So we have to start with the fact that we have a wide open southern border because our border czar actually set a lot of open border policies. They suspended.
She's not actually. She wasn't the border czar.
Oh, that was what the media called her. She assumed the title. She had control over a lot of our border policy at a time when they were suspending. Let me finish, John.
All right, so here, she wasn't actually the border czar. Can these people be any more painfully obvious that their job in their minds is to cover for Kamala Harris, to carry her campaign? J.D. Vance notes to him, you all are the ones who are calling her the border czar, to which you can hear John Karl, yeah, I know, but... The reason at the time, of course, that they were calling her that was to highlight the fact that she had been given such an important job, and that was supposed to demonstrate how important she was. How she wasn't irrelevant. How she wasn't somebody who just got picked for the reasons that Biden claimed that he was going to pick somebody, and that was because they were a woman and a person of color. It was to legitimize. Well, now that has backfired on them. Ironically, what is now potentially harming her and does harm is an issue that they themselves created for Kamala in an attempt at that point to bolster her popularity. Now that it works against her, even here working to try and get her elected. Well, she wasn't ever the border czar. And so the border, along with the economy, are issues that the Democrats know they have to work very, very, very hard to counter in order to help Kamala Harris. For the longest time, they tried to tell the American people that there was no border crisis, that the border was secure. Then that quit working. Now what you have is a very big difference between the two campaigns. Of course, you have the Harris campaign that is just, pretending that she has had nothing to do with the border whatsoever, but by gosh, she's going to fix it. While you have the Trump-Vance campaign that are very specific, and these are the ways we're going to do it. So what is it that the media has to do? They have to pick apart and explain why their way won't actually work.
People, this is like... John, I think it's the wrong attitude to take of it. Okay, so
people for that.
Well, again, but I think this is the wrong attitude towards it, right? There's 20 million people here illegally. You start with what's achievable. You do that, and then you go on to what's achievable from there. I think that if you deport a lot of violent criminals, and frankly, if you make it harder to hire illegal labor, which undercuts the wages of American workers, I think you go a lot of the way to solving the illegal immigration problem. But look, President Trump is absolutely right. You cannot have a border unless you're willing to deport some people. I think it's interesting that people focus on, well, how do you deport 18 million people? Let's start with 1 million. That's where Kamala Harris has failed, and then we can go from there.
Now, what you could hear, and this is the way they're going to begin to frame this, as Trump, Vance talk about, okay, here's how we're going to do it. You could hear Karl in the crossover talk say, well, what is it you're going to do? Start going to people's homes and demanding to see their papers? They are going to try and paint the solution of holding people accountable who have come into this country illegally as that solution no different than the final solution of Adolf Hitler, where they were going door to door looking for people, demanding to see their papers. Because they understand that that is a solution that the polling shows a majority of Americans support mass deportation. They understand that. So they understand that and they know that the Harris campaign is never, ever, ever going to. As much as they're willing to lie, they will not lie claiming that they will have mass deportation. They won't do that. So they see that they have a real problem on their hands here when it comes to getting Kamala Harris elected president because of this particular issue, with the majority of people siding with the solution that Trump-Vance has, and that is mass deportation is part of the solution. So they have to make you think that you're no different than some sort of Nazi if you support this, because they're going to be going door to door asking for papers, which of course is ludicrous. I also love how they act as if this is unreasonable and undoable. These are the same people who called it inspiring and admirable when Joe Biden claimed he was going to cure cancer. There was no naysaying. There was no requirement to even give a Cliff Notes version of how he was going to do that. There was no doubt even cast upon it. It was his moonshot, we were told. So Joe Biden, of course, then he claimed dogs were going to do it. Media didn't cover that much. So we've gone from a media treating an assertion by Joe Biden, of all people, that he would cure cancer if elected president as not only perfectly reasonable, but inspiring and a moonshot. But Trump-Vance as a very reasonable and doable plan to deport people who are in this country illegally, and we're going to be told how that's not possible. Oh, you can't do that. That's not possible. Plus, by the way, you're Nazis if you want to do it. Springfield's Talk, 1041. I'm Nick Reed. All right. The J.D. Vance interview, and he did a number of interviews over the weekend. Once again, Trump-Vance doing what it is that Harris-Walz refused to do, and that is actually sit down and answer questions. And on the issue of deportation, something that a majority of Americans agree with and support, this is problematic for the Harris campaign, so the media has to try and discredit it, as they did with J.D. Vance. One, likening it to, demanding to see your papers, trying to bring up Nazis, World War II. But let's not forget, these are the people that required to see your papers regarding your vaccination status in certain capacities. They had no problem doing that whatsoever. No issue. Because, like any issue, it is only useful, every issue is just to be used as a tool to help them retain power. And if that means you have to show your papers to prove that you got a government-mandated vaccine in a certain capacity, then if you're against that, you're a danger to health, you're a danger to democracy, you are some sort of right-wing lunatic. But if you want our government to hold people who come into this country illegally to the same legal standards you and I are held to, then you're a Nazi. Let's see. E-Verify has never been enforced. If employees who rent and banks were fined and rent, or if employees and renters and banks were fined and jailed, the illegals would have no job, no home, and will go home. By the way, make it illegal. Make it illegals work on roadside crews picking up trash to give them their ticket home. It's interesting because back in the 90s, there was agreement on immigration enforcement. Democrats claimed at the time that they were against illegal immigration, just like Republicans, but the approach was different. And usually the Democrats' approach was go after those who are hiring them, go after the Americans, whereas the Republican approach was, well, no, let's just get the illegals and get them out of here. But this is a shift that has occurred. And it's part of what, to where now Democrats are fully supportive of illegal immigration. J.D. Vance, he mentioned that, that is one area that you go after those who are hiring these individuals. But the Democrats can't take that position any longer because part of their argument for allowing illegals to come into this country is because they will, quote, do the jobs that Americans won't do. So not only are Democrats not going to have any sort of meaningful border security by going after those who hire illegals, that is part of their justification for the illegals being here. They have to work those jobs. Going to shift gears here. I thought this was such an interesting news story regarding our government's perspective on things. EPA. This is from CNN. EPA issues emergency ban on weed killer, citing risk to unborn babies. The Environmental Protection Agency is taking a common weed killer off the market, citing a serious risk to pregnant women and their unborn babies. The EPA has issued an emergency suspension of DCPA, also known as Dacthal. It's a herbicide used to control weeds and grasses in crops, particularly greens like kale and broccoli. The suspension comes after the agency cited a serious risk to pregnant women and their unborn babies who are exposed to the chemical. The exposure can alter fetal thyroid hormone levels, resulting in low birth weight and cause the development issues. The agency said levels of Dacthal may remain unsafe for 25 days or more. After application within the next 90 days, the EPA plans to issue a notice of intent to cancel DCPA products. This is the first time the EPA has used the emergency suspension authority in 40 years. The agency banned a pesticide known as EDB in 1983. Now, there are a couple of things about this that are noteworthy, I'm sure some of which you immediately get. And that is the obvious inconsistency in our government banning a product because it may hurt an unborn child. Now, if this product were meant to not only harm the unborn child, but kill it, that would not only not be pulled from the shelves, but you would have this administration making sure that people could get it without a prescription. The insanity of a government that is pushing as hard as possible for people to be able to purchase a substance that can kill their unborn child, but then turn around and ban a weed killer because it may not kill, but cause some damage to the unborn child. I'm not sure, and this is the other part of this that is noteworthy, and that is in this story. This is a CNN story. The word fetus does not appear. They use the word baby. Now, why would they use the term baby? Because anytime there is any sort of story regarding the woman's right to an abortion, it is always references. They never reference it as a baby. Well, because once again, all issues are about power. And this particular story, who is the bad guy? The bad guy is not the institution or individual trying to save a baby. The bad guy is the producer of the product. And since they are the bad guy, what could be worse than somebody that is putting out a product that hurts babies? So they call what otherwise they would refer to as a fetus. If the bad guy were somebody trying to save the baby from abortion, now the fetus is called a baby because the bad guy is the producer of the product, big evil corporations, that is doing harm. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed.